Hey everyone, my name is Taryn Souders, and I'm an author who lives in Florida. And happy World Read Aloud Day. I hope it's going great for you guys. Today, I'm going to read to you the first chapter from my book, The Mystery of the Radcliffe Riddle. This is a small town murder mystery that's paired with a treasure hunt. And our main character, Grady, inherits a sampler. And if you're not sure what a sampler is, it's a piece of embroidery. And along with this sampler is a note that says if he can solve the riddles that are stitched into it, then it's going to lead him to treasure. And he figures, well, what do I have to lose? So he starts trying to decipher the riddles and trying to figure out what's going on with this piece of embroidery. But he's not the only one. And soon there is a death in town. And it's up to him and his two friends who you're going to meet. Their names are Clemmy and Thad to try to figure out, number one, the riddles that the sampler have, and number two, who is the culprit. So please join me as I start off with chapter one of The Mystery of the Radcliffe Riddle. Grab my glasses here. Eudora Clinch died. I lowered myself onto the warped boards of the dock next to Thad and set the Gifton Gazette between us. My feet dangled above the water for an instant, then I thought better of it and removed my sneakers. I'd found them in the church donation box last week, and while they were in decent enough shape, the fit was a bit loose, and I didn't care to lose one or both to Chapman's Pond. The murky water didn't seem to bother Ophelia much. The churl, the squirrel chasing Mutt, who belonged to no one in Gifton, but was looked after by nearly everyone, barreled down the dock and leapt into the pond. "Why are you reading obituaries, Grady?" Thad asked. "It's creepy." "I've got nothing else to read." I swung my feet back and forth. "It's Sunday. The library's closed, and I've read everything I checked out last week." And it wasn't like I could buy books when I ran out of something to read. Ophelia swam to shore and disappeared into the woods chasing a squirrel. Thad yanked a narrow bag of shelled sunflower seeds from his back pocket and poured a few into his hand. "Want some?" "No, thanks." I pushed my hair away from my eyes. I needed a haircut, but they cost money, and I wasn't about to trust Thad with a pair of scissors. He flipped open his sketchbook and began another floor plan. If Thad wasn't drawing houses, he was reading about them, or about architects. It was all part of his plan to become a world-famous architect himself. "I wonder if Kookie's ghost is digging up flowers for her heavenly mansion." Eudora Clinch had earned her nickname, Kookie, due to the fact she had hauled a shovel with her wherever she went, and she had dug more holes around town than a gopher on caffeine. Rumor had it, ages ago her ancestors buried something valuable somewhere in Gifton, but no one had ever found any treasure, not even Kookie Clinch. Every so often, she'd dig up some poor soul's graveside flowers, claiming to have finally found the long-lost treasure, and then take them back to her house for replanting. Deputy Orringdorf had long since given up talking to her about it, said she saw no point in upsetting her since it was obvious Miss Eudora's cornbread wasn't quite cooked all the way through. Thankfully, she had never taken the flowers from Mama's grave. Dad would have had a fit. Me too. At least that's one thing we would have agreed on. Without Mama in between us, it had become so obvious Dad and I were on opposite sides in almost everything. If hope was a thing with feathers, like that Emily Dickinson poem that had been Mama's favorite, mine had a broken wing. Or maybe I just had the wrong kind of bird. I figured Emily was saying hope was like a bird in her chest that sang no matter what. It sounded like maybe she had a sweet canary or something cheerful inside her. But not me. I had an annoying mockingbird, poking fun at my attempt to get along with Dad. And I was pretty sure he had a vulture. What I really wanted was Emily Dickinson's canary. "What are y'all doing?" Clemmy's voice called from behind. Thad jumped and accidentally sideswiped the package of sunflower seeds right into the pond. "Frank Lloyd Wright, why are you scaring me like that?" Thad's idea of swearing was to spew architects' names. At least I'd heard of this one. Clemmy wasn't allowed to swear, but she usually didn't let that stop her. I glanced over my right shoulder, shielding my eyes from the afternoon sun. Clemmy, in a brown tank, a shade lighter than her skin, sauntered down the dock toward us with a swagger that radiated self-confidence. "You're going to turn into a boiled lobster." Her voice dragged its way through the soupy air and made its way to my ears. I knew she wasn't talking to me. Along with inheriting Mama's Welsh green eyes and dark hair, I also had her olive skin, and it took a lot for me to be mistaken for a boiled lobster. "Like you never burn?" Thad said. "I don't, doofus. I just get darker." She flipped a handful of braids over her shoulder. "And before you ask, yes, black people can also get freckles." "No fair," he muttered. Thad was so white he could blend in with potato salad. Redheads are pale, but he took it to a whole new level. "And you made me drop my snack." He stared mournfully at his floating bag of sunflower seeds. He reached down and pulled it out before it could sink to the bottom. Thought Thad was drawn to food the same way moths are drawn to light. His stomach and love of architecture were his two main purposes for waking up, and despite the fact he ate all the time, a strong wind could probably blow him over. "Guess what?" Clemmy said, wiggling in between us and bringing the scent of coconut lotion with her. She smelled loads better than Thad or me. "I won our ever-so-official Battle of the Battles." A couple weeks back, before school ended, our history teacher, Mrs. Maragos, had crammed in a last-minute lesson about a bit of a kerfuffle during Georgia's colonial history, the War of Jenkins' Ear. Some British guy got his ear cut off by some Spanish guy, and 8 years of war followed. Even though a good chunk of the fighting happened in the Caribbean, parts of it took place near Gifton, stuff like militia raids and skirmishes. After that history lesson, Clemmy, Thad, and I tried to see who could find the dumbest reason to start a war. All we'd discovered so far were that noble causes like freedom and liberty were few and far between, but dumb reasons were about as common as mosquitoes on a summer night. "What makes you think you're the winner?" Thad asked. Clementine Powell and Thaddeus Carleton were as different as cherries and cheese, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a closer pair of friends. Somehow, they made it work. Unlike Dad and me. Clemmy poked him in the chest. "I don't think, I know. Ever hear about the War of the Golden Stool?" Thad scowled. "The what?" "I didn't think so." Clemmy grinned and glanced down at his sketchbook. "Nice house, by the way." "Can't it wait?" I wiped away a bead of sweat. "I was about to tell him about Eudora Clinch." "She's not going anywhere. Hold on." But Clemmy erased my protest with a wave of her hand. "Later, Grady." I groaned. Arguing with her was useless. She was the shortest of the three of us, but tough as a pine knot when she had her mind set on something. "Look here." She leaned toward me and pulled a folded piece of paper from her back pocket. "Some British diplomat back in the 1900s, and why does it always seem to be the British, demanded to sit on a stool that was considered sacred to the Ashanti people there in Africa, and bam, war broke out." She thrust the paper towards Thad. "Read it. People died." Thad folded the sheet in half and fanned his face. "Speaking of people who died," I said, "let's get back to Eudora Clinch." Clemmy rested on her back hands and crossed her ankles. "Is it true she was rich?" Thad stopped fanning. "And cats. Didn't she have 1 million of them? I remember one bit Ernie's big toe last year. Held on tight, too, until Ernie fed it one of his chicken nuggets." Excuse me. Hard to blame the cat. Ernie Dixon was practically feral himself and smelled like chicken nuggets, because that's all he ever ate. His folks weren't around much, and according to him, his pet turtle Sheldon didn't mind the smell and would even eat an occasional chunk of chicken himself. I rolled my eyes. The obituary doesn't mention money or cats. It'd be in bad taste. I swiped the fan from Thad and handed him the newspaper. "Here, look." He flapped it open and read aloud. "The rather eccentric Eudora Clinch surely went on to receive her heavenly reward last Thursday at the overripe age of 98. She lived in Gifton her whole life. She was an only child and never married. Miss Clutch often won Yard of the Month for the beautiful flowers in her front lawn. Clemmy shook her head. The mayor can't even get her name right. Mayor Shore ran the Gifton Gazette. He was a reporter, editor-in-chief, and obit writer. The good man hadn't developed a habit of proofreading any better than he had developed photographs. The weekly newspaper was simply Deputy Orringdorf's police report, sprinkled with blurry pictures, expired coupons, opinions, and typos. Thad turned his attention back to the paper. A graveside service will be held this Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Y'all know where. Feel free to bring flowers from Eudora's front lawn. They were most likely yours to begin with anyway. Come if you have nothing else going on. Charlie Waddell, do not bring a date this time. I swatted away a mosquito. I think we should go. Thad pulled the Gazette down. Why? Keep reading. Reception held by the Gifton Cooking Society immediately after. Please RSVP to Miss Ida Rose Cloyd, who will be holding up the somber affair. Sorry, she's heading up the somber affair. She's not holding it up. If anything good or bad happened in town, Ida Rose was guaranteed to be present and handing out food. On second thought, we should pay our respects. Thad handed back the paper. Clemmy smacked her lips. I hope she brings cake. I want her fried chicken, Thad said. Are you serious? I'm definitely not eating her fried chicken, Clemmy replied. If she eats that on a regular basis, her funeral will probably be next. Ida Rose turned out fried chicken so greasy the undertaker probably could have tossed a couple pieces into Eudora Clinch's coffin ahead of time and just let her glide through the pearly gates. But the following week we learned that Clemmy, for all her many talents, was no fortune teller. Ida Rose was not the next Gifton resident to kick the bucket. So that is the first chapter of The Mystery of the Radcliffe Riddle. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I hope you finish it. I hope you keep reading to find out who was the next resident who kicked the bucket, how and why, and what's going to happen with Grady's inheritance that he hasn't even found out about yet. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I hopefully will talk to you later on sometime in the future.